Yes, good morning, guys. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube channel. Today we are going to do video about nvidia. So nvidia right now, when you see over here, when you put nvidia all-time high is almost 300,000. In 5 years ago is more than 2,000. Let's say 300,000%. 1 year 157. Year to date 163. Like you see, this thing, guys, has been rocketing, and we are going to see what's going to happen. And guys, the dip that we came around $94, that is the dip, which, guys, is happening some pack days. Like here it was a dip, it came this dip, and it make another double top here. Right now we are here, and this week on Wednesday we have some earnings which come on nvidia, and we are going to see a lot of things here. We want to see the technically right now, what's the technicals telling you, guys. Right now nvidia is a strong pie. Okay, it's very strong pie. Like you can buy before earnings, and you see everything over here. Out of 16 indicators here is telling you nvidia is to buy, and that is the, you can call a summary. That's a summary. And when you break down what's make of the summary, we have the oscillator here. Two people say pi, and some people who report around 94 still holding, and 0 to sell. And when you came on the moving averages, guys, remember moving average is telling you strong pi, 14 pi, 1 neutral. So which is nvidia is going to reach $200. Guys, nvidia is going to rocket after earnings. I know it's going to beat earnings. And when you see the forecast over here, nvidia was targeting 90. We saw 90 some peak days, so it's already hitting this 90. You see this dip over here, it came to 990, and right now it's trading. Remember, the medium target is 144 and the highest is 200. So remember this thing, guys. This dip, we have already find the dip, and we cannot go to find another dip. What we can go to find over here now is another pop, which is coming on next week. And I like to play this video. Or before I play video, I can show you the charts over here on nvidia. And when you see very closely over here, right now I'm using the daily. And some recently nvidia was fading out, and then I was like, what is going on over here? So right now nvidia is above everything, is above 20 EMA, 50 EMA. Remember that last round we are waiting to come to test the 200 moving average around 81, but he didn't came. He bounces around the 90. That was say already hit the minimum. And recently you break all of this resistance. I had some downtrend here. I didn't update a lot of video, guys, because I thought it's going to reject it here 111. You break it, and then finally, and you see it's consolidating from, this is the 4 days from Monday. Remember this area, this thing has been consolidating around 130 or 131. You see this area, that is the day 1, 2, 3. Like in 5 days, let's say all of this week, nvidia was consolidating between 129 and 120 something. So 122 and 129, and it's waiting for earnings. We are watching on you see this one, guys. After this thing consolidated this week between 130 and 122, you see this one is fading. It's almost if earnings is going to be before earnings, we are going to watch this one, because MACD is very important. And when you see on 4 hour just MACD was pointed downside, if you notice. So, and this MACD is going to turn on Monday or Tuesday, because when earnings, and when it's going to happen, earnings is going to happen, it's going to turn to, remember right now you tell you on 4 hours just it told you sell around 130. And right now maybe it's going to be showing another, when you're monitoring it, it will tell you again buy from here to ride nvidia all the way to moon. Another thing why I think nvidia is going to rocket is why on weekly. I was watching on weekly here. You see, in fact, it was not nvidia, but it's you see over here it's just turning. But guys, this is very important. If the earnings will be not be good and the stock will come down, it's already we are under that sell. So on weekly we don't have sell, guys. So that's the one of the thing you must worry about it. So why? Because weekly as not yet you sell. Maybe the stock will break out or during earnings hitting 150, 160, and before coming down because data, economic data is not that good. It's good, but if they will stop on rate hike, like they will cut it. If they will cut the rate hike, people say it's going to send the stock coming down. Before I play the video, when you see Meta over here on weekly, it's just it's showing some signaling pie on weekly. Remember, it fake out here some pack days, and we need to see guys that signal to come in, but we don't have any signal on weekly. Okay, let's hear this video on Meta earnings.
nvidia, the biggest driver of returns among the Magnificent Seven since the market rallied just the other week. But shares are under pressure today, down about 0.6%, though nvidia is still up over 40% from its August lows, adding over $500 billion to its market cap in just 3 weeks. Joining us to discuss the next big catalyst for the chip giant, we've got Dan Niles. He's the founder and portfolio manager at Niles Investment Management. Dan, it's great to have you on here. So obviously expectations for nvidia are high heading into the next print, and this comes after their EPS growth was over 400% in the first quarter. Can they beat that again?
Yeah, I think for the quarter, everybody's expecting them to beat revenues and EPS. The real question really comes down to more of the guidance in terms of how it reacts in the near term. I think, though, if you take a step back and you think about it from a longer term perspective, if you think back to the internet build out, and you can start that at the end of '94 when Netscape Navigator showed up. You had Cisco really drive the infrastructure build out for the internet at the time. Cisco never had a down quarter sequentially in 6 years, and the stock was up over 4,000% from the end of '94 to its peak, and revenues were up 15.5 times. If you look at nvidia, we're only 6 quarters, not 6 years, into the build out since we heard about this thing called ChatGPT and generative AI. And the revenues are up 4.5 times, not 15.5 times like it was for Cisco. And the stock is up 600%, not 4,000% like it was for Cisco from the end of '94 to its peak. So, yeah, the stock may go down after they report because obviously we've heard about delays in Blackwell. Their 3 biggest customers, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, all 3 of those stocks went down after they reported results. They all talked about spending a lot of money, maybe more than they needed to in the near term. So the quarter itself, it could be messy, but if you think about it from a long-term perspective, I think we still have several more years to go. I think the revenues will double over the course of the next several years, and I think the stock will as well.
So Dan, it sounds like you're still, or you would be a buyer here then at these levels.
I'm not a buyer here at these levels. I mean, if you look back at what we were saying, what we said going into this earnings season, we said we thought there would be an issue during earnings with the Magnificent Seven in that you'd have to start rationalizing AI spend because you weren't generating the revenues you needed. And so for us, if you look at the 6 Magnificent Seven stocks that have reported so far, they've been down on average 4% the day after earnings. So with this massive ramp up, you talked about it earlier, right? This will be the 9th day in a row the S&P's up. It's the longest streak since 2004. I wouldn't necessarily be pushing that into an NVIDIA print, but I think if you're not worried about what happens the day after, and you're thinking about this over a multi-year period of time, it should be in pretty good shape. But as we've seen, the market's really volatile, and when you've got big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, where the forward revenue numbers are coming down, not up after they reported, and they're the biggest customers for NVIDIA, and you know an NVIDIA chip is late, I wouldn't necessarily be messing around with it for the quarter itself. you're thinking long term, yes, you can be a buyer.
Dan, put this in perspective for our viewers, because so many people have talked about the fact that NVIDIA could be the next catalyst here for the market. This is the thing to watch. When you stack up NVIDIA's results next week, compare that to what could come out of Jackson Hole here on Friday. What is the bigger catalyst to the market in your view?
Do you like having a P.O. box but are tired of wasting time and money driving to the post office?
Well, I mean, the long term is always made up of a series of short-term events. So I think you first get through Jackson Hole. I don't think it's hard to believe that Jackson Hole will be anything but positive in terms of rhetoric, because these central bankers, remember, 2 weeks ago, you had the Nikkei down, which is the Japanese stock market, 12% in one day. The U.S. stock market was down 3% in a day, and that's not that long ago. So they're going to want to be very calming and soothing and talk about the pace of rate cuts, not whether it will happen, and talk about the support that they're giving to markets. And so I think that's going to be positive. And then you obviously on August 28th, you get the NVIDIA results, and that specifically is going to focus in on where are we in this AI trade. Because I do think, sometime next year, you're going to go through a period of AI digestion once the Blackwell chips ship, because you've heard different companies saying the risk is underspending right now on AI, not overspending, which tells you that they're spending more than what they think they need, because their forward forecast for revenues are going down. So at some point, you're going to go through this digestion phase. And for the viewers who don't remember these same customers caused NVIDIA to pre-announce negatively in the early part of 2022, because these same customers were going through a digestion phase at that time as well. So this isn't going to be straight up and to the right. I mean, even with Cisco, that stock was down 38% intra-year in 1997 from peak to trough. It was down 37% in 1998 peak to trough. It was up each of those years in full, but you had some horrific drawdowns as you were going through digestion periods or other macro events. And so you should be willing to deal with that in NVIDIA and expect that to happen.
So what does that mean in terms of investor positioning, Dan? I get it that you are kind of bearish short-term, bullish long-term on NVIDIA. What portfolio management does that initiate for investors listening in terms of capital allocation there?
Well, I think one of the things that we've done is we've broadened out what we own. So if you're in an environment where rates are getting cut, I always look at it and say, what can I do where I benefit from the big macro trends? Well, the one thing you know pretty much for certain is that rates are going to come down across the board. So what companies will that benefit? Well, financials is one sector, consumer staples, obviously with the big dividend yields that they have, is another sector. Telecom services is another sector where you've got big dividend yields, and those look a lot more attractive when rates start to drop. And so I think, right now it's been tech 24/7, AI all the time, but don't forget that trade is getting a little longer in the tooth, in the sense that if the biggest companies in the world, like an Amazon, like a Google, like a Microsoft, all which are big AI players, had their forward revenues for the September quarter cut when they reported June, despite all the benefits from AI, then you may want to think about, because over the long term, earnings is what drives stock prices, you may want to think about other sectors that have been just sort of left in the dust, the other 493 stocks in the S&P 500, because those are going to benefit in a rate-cutting environment with an economy that is slowing, which is what's going on right now.
Dan, final 30 seconds here, and I've got to ask you about this. You said that Meta uses AI the best, and I would have thought you'd put Microsoft before that line. Why do you think that Meta is the winner on AI right now?
Because if you look at it, it's pretty simple. When they reported in June, Meta beat the revenues, they beat the EPS, they took up the guidance for how much they're going to spend on AI, and then the forward numbers for September went up as well. For Microsoft, the forward numbers went down. They missed their Azure growth rate, which, by the way, that's where the OpenAI relationship, that's where the revenues flow into, and the numbers came in less than expected. So, we all have these great theories about how things are going to play out, but the numbers and the outlook give you a better sense of what's going on. And Meta is using AI really well to figure out, what do you want to watch? and then what ads am I going to show you that you're going to be engaged with? And so that really is what they're doing incredibly well. And by the way, the valuation is cheaper than Microsoft, where Meta's trading in the mid-20s PE and Microsoft's trading in the low 30s. We like Microsoft as well, but I think you have to look at what do the actual numbers do. And for me, I like growth, and I like growth at a reasonable price, and Meta really fits that bill very well.
All right, Dan Niles, Niles Investment Management founder and portfolio manager. Always really appreciate you giving us some of your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So guys, when you hear all of the news, you talk about Meta. So I would already say on this Facebook talk, we have this one, guys. There is something going on with the Facebook here. We have this one, which is a double top, clearly double top around 540, and it's more than double top because he came here, he touches 1 2, and then he touches here, and you see this thing is already rejecting. Guys, it will be rejected, this will be bad, okay? Because why Meta is rejecting? Reason number one, maybe this weekly chart here, I'm telling you, want to break out, so maybe you want to fade out again, which is looking to send this stock from this top. You see this guy is like next week is very important candlestick that you are going to see on Meta, okay? You see this one, a star, which is if you close the next week below here like 516, that will be worst, which is going to inflate. We saw most of the coins which is 1 to 1 weekly, like here. If you see Meta some pack days, 1 weekly, remember weekly, guys, is very important when you see stock breaking out, okay? When you see over here some pack days, stock was went to break out, and then he rejected, okay? Thanks so much and have a nice day.